Hello, everybody. This is a Lamley showcase, little Friday night showcase, little Matchbox showcase. Appropriate considering the Matchbox Gathering of Friends, which is the official yearly Matchbox convention, is getting underway in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Collectors are there, they're gathering. That's why it's called the Gathering. They're doing room-to-room trading. They're just hanging out. I've done all of that. I've done the room-to-room trading. I've just sat at the bar and had a drink with friends. It's a great time. It's not as big as, say, a Hot Wheels convention, and that can be really cool because you get to meet a lot of people, get to know a lot of people, and get to hang out with the Matchbox team well. It's pretty intimate. The events are really cool. And I've been there, I think, 12 times is what I've calculated. Nonetheless, always great. Saturday night is the culmination of the event when they do the Matchbox dinner. Collectors gather, eat some food, and then the Matchbox team presents the next year's line. That's 2024 this year, and Abe Lugo and the Matchbox team are there to present that. And of course, we're going to be streaming it here on the channel. If you've already, I'll put a link in the description. If you're watching this before that Saturday, then bookmark that so you can watch it when it's live. If you're watching this after that Saturday, just follow the link and it'll take you right to the video so you can see what's coming up in 2024. Nonetheless, I asked you, the viewer, I wanted to do a Matchbox Gathering showcase, and I asked you if you wanted to see some of my favorite Gathering exclusives. They're there if you want to freeze the screen and look at some. That's not all of them. I have quite a few still in their acrylic case. In fact, these models here, most of them, not all of them, but most of them come in acrylic cases, and I'm going to be putting them back as I reorganize my collection. So that's a project I'm going to be working on. Here's a couple that are still in their acrylic cases, like the Mercedes, which is a really cool, sought-after one. This is another favorite, the Porsche from a couple years ago. Nonetheless, that's not what you guys wanted. You wanted to see some prototypes, some of the prototypes that I acquired at the Gathering auction. I've actually acquired a few Matchbox prototypes over the years, through various ways, and trying to be, you've got to do it through legal ways. You know, sometimes they do pop up on eBay. Be careful of the source on some of those, I'll just say that. But one of the treats, and they do this at the Hot Wheels convention too, one of the treats that of the convention is that the Mattel team will donate a few prototypes, you know, from the process of creating the castings and the toolings, testing them, painting them, doing the first decos and everything. Obviously, they amass a massive collection of these beat-up cars that they'll test out, and occasionally they will document some and gather them, make sure that they're documented, and donate them to the charity auction at the Matchbox convention or the Hot Wheels convention, depending on which. I have been fortunate to win 4 auctions over the years. Considering I've been there 12 years, I've also been unfortunate to lose a ton of auctions as well on these prototypes, but they're really, really cool. So I wanted to show you some of them. I wanted to show you the 4 that I've won, and then one other I think is cool. So let's just start with that. I'm going to show you the regular model first. There it is right there. This is not a prototype that I won. This is just one I wanted to show you because it's such an interesting story. This is obviously the Nissan Skyline. It's the first edition of the Skyline. I was working with the Matchbox team doing some, the time just a little bit after I was the ambassador, and the new team was there, and they wanted to do the Skyline, and this was a model just because of my the fact that I really liked the Skyline, that I was excited to see them do a stock version of the Skyline. So I was really excited about this casting being done. I remember one day I got a text from one of the designers saying, "Hey, the Skyline is finished. Do you want to see it?" I was like, "Yes." And they show me some pictures, and I saw the side view. I saw the front view. There it is right there. I saw the back view. But there was something wrong with the license plate. Now, this is the regular version. This one says 1971. But there was something on the license plate that I was like, uh-oh. Hey, just a heads up, I said. The license plate you have on the back of that Skyline is wrong, and it will be... Collectors will notice this, especially the JDM fans, and say, hey, you're way off. And interestingly enough, this was Gary Cody, the designer. He said, "Oh, we know." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Rio Asada bolted down the hallway when he saw this picture." Rio was at Hot Wheels at the time. He used to design for Matchbox before that, and said, "Hey, you've got to change this. It is wrong. The license plate is wrong." And it might sound like no big deal, but this was what the license plate looked like. It said it has the GTR logo on it. Now, for those of you who know, this is not a GTR. This is very much the stock Nissan Skyline, 2000 GTX, right? The GTR was very much a specific spec of the Skyline, and this definitely wasn't it. So I sent that message saying, if you keep that on there, now they get their early prototypes, right? For the main point, if they need to change something, they can. But I said, if you keep that on there, there's going to be problems. Collectors will be like, you've got this wrong. So they changed it. But the great story here is, we all loved and appreciate Ryo Asada, and this is one of his things. He was such a stickler for the details, which he should be, right? And he saw this, and this was like putting 3 wheels on a 4-wheel car. It was so wrong to him. He came screaming down the hall and told them that you got to change this. And they said, oh, yeah, we're on it. Because I was reminded them, and I thought it was such a funny story. This was gifted to me, and I just think this GTR prototype version, it's got the FEP code on there. But I always thought it was such a great story and such a tribute to Ryo and tribute to the Matchbox team that they wanted to get things right. And I always thought that that was a cool story. So I wanted to share that one with you because it's such a unique piece and one of my favorite pieces of my collection. All right, prototypes. I've won 4, like I said. They're really cool. Now, you got to be careful because, like I said, some of them sneak out of the factory, and I think it's really important, and I know Mattel would want me to say, consider the source. Watch out for stolen goods. These were authenticated by Mattel, taken, donated to auction, like I said, and we were allowed to bid on them. I don't remember all the prices I paid, but I'm going to show you again the regular version. This is the Caterham. What is it? The official Caterham Superlight R500. This shows 2009. I think that's about the time that this casting was done. This is the first edition of the Caterham, whenever it was released, about that year. And I always thought it was cool. It was a very unique 2-seater. I think this is one that Ryu wanted to do. This is when he was still designing for Matchbox. And you can see how they did a really nice job on the details of this one. Kind of hard to do a car like this. It's based on the old Lotus, and they did this Caterham. But my rule with prototypes that I was bidding on, and I've kind of continued it. I have some raw prototypes at this point, but was that I liked painted, riveted prototypes. So it almost was like these were cars, like looked like regular versions of cars. Here it is. I thought this one was cool. Now, what's going to happen with prototypes is they don't care what color of paint they put on it. They don't care what kind of wheels they put on it, as long as it's the right size wheels. They just want to see, how does the paint look, and how does the body look with paint on it? How do the wheels fit? Does it roll? Everything. This is just a way for them to test it. They get these prototypes with any color, any wheel. Sometimes the wheels are completely mismatched, and then they beat the out of it. This one actually didn't get beat up too badly, but it has this kind of toxic green color. Black rims make it look cool. This could pass as like a regular release, sans the details. It doesn't have taillights, headlights, or anything tampoed on, any of those graphics. But you could see a color like this, a very plain version. So I actually thought this one was very cool. The gray color is very much, not the color that they would do on something like this, because it looks very, very plasticky. But for this prototype, I thought it was super unique. So I went for it, and I was able to win it. I'm thinking I won it for about $140, which, considering how collecting has changed, that's a pretty cheap price, but it was considered pretty medium to high at the time, but I really wanted it. Next one. I was determined to win this one, and I was able to do it. Here's the regular version of the Cadillac CTS Coupe. This is not the first edition. This was a 10-pack exclusive from back in the day, but I thought that the CTS variations they did, the wagon and the coupe, were very interesting cars that Matchbox did at the time. This might have been about 2000. Does this year show? 2010. Yeah, it says 2010 on the base. I can show that to you. I don't know if you can see it up top. But car that I liked. This one was donated. I saw it on the auction sheet, and I wanted to go for it. I do not remember what I won this one for, but let me show you the prototype. I mentioned that they get beat up. This one has been beat up. And what's cool, you want some character with some of these. This is the prototype I won. Now, in this particular case, they actually, you can see I won it in 2010. The Matchbox team actually burnt the ABQ10 into the base as part of a way to verify that this was part of the auction, this prototype. Another color that they just use, they have this kind of grayish, you can see that the windows aren't totally clear, but it doesn't matter. They just want to see how the plastic fits the car. And then you can see that this has all of these marks on the side. That's because this one was sealed with rubber bands. This one was held together by rubber bands until it was riveted later. And so it's got a bunch of rubber band burns on it. And yeah, you could say, oh, that's annoying. But that actually adds for a prototype. It's cool because this shows this one was used. This one was a car that probably sat in the design center, was beat up a little bit, thrown down tracks, rolled across desks, probably fell off a few, thrown into boxes, rubber banded up, taken to different places for testing. This is a used car that Mattel definitely put to the test, right? We'll say that. And that was one that I really wanted, and I had to have it. And I got it. I do not remember what the price was. Next one is probably my prized possession when it comes to prototypes that I've won. This was the year that I was the Matchbox ambassador, 2011. Was I the 8th ambassador, I think? Here's the model. It remains one of my favorite Matchbox models of all time. It is the BMW 1M. This is the first edition in orange, kind of an iconic orange color. I still love watching the old Top Gear video on this car, where Jeremy Clarkson talks about how it's just kind of a Frankenstein car, but it's brilliant. And, there's the M2 now, but the 1M kind of has a special place. It's such a unique car. It's one car that if I ever had a chance to get as a collector car, an actual real car, I'd truly, truly consider it. I just love how small it is and everything else. Just a really, really cool car. Well, the year that I was ambassador, I think it was the year that I was coming back as ambassador. I was ending my term as the Matchbox ambassador, and I could talk about that another time. But the Matchbox team put the BMW prototype up for auction. And this I knew was a prototype because this is a picture that they had shared with me to share with collectors. And the prototype was beat up in such a way that you could see where the little paint chips were and stuff. And that picture that they sent from their desk for me to share with collectors when I was the ambassador, when I looked at it, when I inspected it for the auction, it was the exact prototype. I looked at the paint chips, like there's that paint chip on the front there. I think there were a couple others on the back. And I was like, this is the actual car that they were using. I could verify it that this was the one that they were using on their desk to test the car. Loved it with the white. Oh, something just fell out. Loved it with the white 10 spokes. And it's even got that Barbie flesh interior that they call, which is kind of a macabre way of describing it, but it's like the same plastic used with Barbie, and that's how they a lot of times they would look at these interiors, make sure that the plastic worked. This one was also, they burnt ABQ into it, 2011. That's how you know. Sometimes the bases are blank. This one is not. That has that elephant is for the Thailand factory, which is kind of cool. Anyway, this one I had to have, and I actually went to war with David Tilley on this one. Tilley is the Lee of Lamley. I'm Lambert, the Lamb of Lamley. And we were both bidding on it. I think it got up to 200 and I just wanted to put it away. So I bid $300 to just surpass, any what I hoped would be David's final bid, and made him stop, and he did, in fact, and I won it for $300, and I was happy, obviously, to add a little extra money to the Rachel's Courtyard charity that this auction is for. So this one was special because it was one that I was super excited to show this model as the ambassador, and then I was able to acquire it in auction, and it still remains one of my prized Matchbox conventions. The next year, I don't know what year this was. I don't know if it was the next year, like 2012 or 13, but there was one other one that I had my eye on, and I went after. I don't remember what I paid for it, but I had to have it. And it's a very, very cool model. Another great Matchbox model. Still stays up in one of my all-time favorites. But this is the model. This is actually, I think, the recolor of the first edition of the Mitsubishi Evo Police. What's the official name of this one? Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution Police. Evolution 5 Police 2010 is the year on this one. So there's the casting. It's really well done. I actually love it as a police car. I thought it was so much better than the Hot Wheels casting, which was too big. This one was proportioned beautifully. And they've done a new Lancer since, right? But I really like this casting. And when I saw that Matchbox was putting one up for auction, I had to have it. And this one is really cool too. I love the color. I love all the details. And here it is right here. It's kind of a dark plum. Chrome 10 spokes. You can see the fogged up windows. Again, it doesn't matter if the windows are clear or not for these. It's just a matter of how does the paint look? How do the windows fit? How does the light bar fit? This is before they modified it with the white bar, or the light bar being part of the window. It has a chrome grill, which is kind of funny for an Evo. You know, they would never do that because that actually looks kind of cool, right? But it's not accurate to the car, right? But they put a chrome base on this thing. It's somewhat blank. You can see that. Not all the details are there. Like the name of the car is not there, but the Matchbox logo is on it. It is riveted. But I saw this one. I was ready to go for it, and I was lucky enough to win it. I don't know who I beat for it, and I don't remember what I paid for it, but this was another one that I had to have. Since then, I keep losing. Oh my gosh, I know that there was an SLR McLaren I went after that I lost. Oh my gosh, I'd have to go back and try and think. I think there was an A100, there was an Old Vista Cruiser, there was a Dodge Monaco, a bunch of other castings that I've been really fond of that I've not been able to get my hands on, that I lost out to great collectors who it's been part of their collection ever since. There's auctions going to be, and I would follow the MBX Gathering page on Instagram because they're going to stream some of the auction, I think, and you can see some of the prototypes. I know they've shared pictures of some of the prototypes as well that have been donated by Mattel this year. They're really cool. They're interesting. There's history behind them. It's cool to have a unique piece of the castings that you like. And obviously, it's fun because you're also raising money for charity by bidding on these things. And if you win, you know, that's more money in these charities' pockets, which is a great thing that Jim Gallegos and the team at the Gathering does. Anyway, I wanted to share those with you. Those are some of my stories. Those are the 4 prized auction wins of my collection. I won't be bidding on any this year because I'm not there this year, but we're going to be streaming it anyway. We'll be streaming that 2024 preview. When I'm back next year, maybe I'll make a run at a few, and I'm not going to tell you which ones I'm going to make a run at. I don't want anyone to outbid me, but I'll let you know afterwards. Thanks, everybody. Bye.